Maxwell is a physically accurate modeling or rendering engine. So that means that all of the lights are calibrated to calculate the exact amount of illumination that's hitting surfaces and reflecting them off of those surfaces to create that ambient light that you're seeing, or diffuse lighting conditions, or diffuse shadows that you would typically see. Like if we built all of the lights in this space and it was nighttime like it is now, then you render it, it's going to look like this, right? So it's meant to be used for photoreal. What that means is, here on this diagram, it's made for people who are on this track. Does that make sense? It's made for people who are going like, what? Like they want, it's for people who are rendering cars and industrial design stuff, like really cool lamps and stuff. And anyway, so architecturally, it certainly functions exactly the same, but the learning curve is way high. For most users, we use simplified versions. Like I guess V-Ray is more of a V-Ray is kind of there. It's almost totally physically accurate. It tries to be as well. I guess if you guys know Revit rendering engine also uses physical lighting. But there are also sort of side softwares, like smaller packages that will pump out renders. I don't know very many of them, but Lumion is a perfect example of a non-realistic renderer. So it functions a lot more like a video game engine renderer, where I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. I'm going to ruin this person's diagram up here. Okay, so there's a room, right? 17 by 11 feet, right? And if we put a window in that room, like this, and all of the light from the outside environment is going in, depending on where the sun's coming, right, you're going to get sunbeams, or rays of light, I should say, that are coming in like this, and they're going to go and hit a surface, and they're going to bounce, or wherever that's going over like that, right, and they're going to bounce around the room a bajillion times. I mean, it has a limit, of course, but, and then you're also going to get diffuse glow that's coming in from all sides, and that happens from the light that's reflecting off of our environment. That's how we get, light all around. So that happens, and that just starts shooting off in all directions inside. So there's ray-based light, and there's diffuse lighting and ambient lighting. What the more simple rendering engines do is they take a room like this, and it puts a bunch of little dots, basically point lights. So it'll just fill it with a bunch of dots like this, and then it'll have like little rays of light that kind of shoot out everywhere, and just, it illuminates all around the space, all throughout. Let me see if I can find a quick image of how that works. Let's see. Point lights. Yeah, Unity. Unity is a good one. Well, I can't find a great example. I can dig it up if I have a little bit of time, but it floods the space with lights like that and creates a more diffuse glow. And then you can also do exact, like point lights or directional lights or spotlights and everything like that. So those are video game based, and the way that they run their materials is, generally speaking, you've got very simple geometry, and in order to keep the file size down, rather than creating more points and like mesh triangles and stuff like that, like different meshes, measurement triangles, I forget exactly what terminology it is, but rather than creating more complex geometry, which takes longer to calculate, it functions off of a bump map. And it takes a simple geometry, like a board like this, and then it just creates like a negative or a positive via, I'll show you, a normal map. Shoop, there we go, normal maps. And the way that this functions is basically, whatever differential, this is a good diagram right here, whatever differential it has from the particular blue color that says that that's neutral, it either moves in the positive or negative direction, and light will be cast on that particular surface in the positive or negative direction, which gives it the illusion of having depth, depending on where the camera is. Okay, so all of that level of complexity is not something we're doing in this class. We might do a little bit, but probably not much. Okay, we're going to try to rely as much on the default materials as we possibly can. So talking about the simpler engines like Lumion, a video game engine, you also have Unreal Engine or Unity, which are frequently used for architectural representation as well. Which can create really great images as well, right? It's just, more often than not, it's not exactly physical based, right? Like out here, the illumination is really just kind of, it's basically just a diffuse glow that's coming off of whatever, probably a surface that's in the back. Trying to find a good example of one that's almost real. Some of these are really good though. I mean, but just like anything else, you spend more time on it, you're going to get something that's a little bit more real out of it. This one's probably a good example, right? Like a lot of it looks pretty photoreal, but some of it doesn't. You know, like there should be some more direct lighting coming in here. It looks to me like the sun's coming in from that side, or something like that. But anyway, you would still get shadows, even from a surface like, or even if the sunlight is not coming in from that direction, you would still get shadows because it's a small portal. Anyway, what other questions do you have on that? Are there any other questions or curiosities? Okay. One of the cool things about these video game engines is that they frequently do landscaping a lot better than the physical based rendering engines. So something like this, I don't think that was it, like that. It's not photoreal, but it's a way better calibrated model that makes you feel like you're in an actual space with actual landscaping. Even though it kind of looks like you bought it at Marshall's, it still is better than something that's flat that's trying to be bump mapped out to be real. Because these are, in most cases, these are actually modeled. Well, I'll show you.
So they duplicate the shadows from the actual model and they
Yes.
place on there. Okay.
This is probably an alright one to show. This video might get like kicked off for, I don't know. This one might get banned from YouTube for me showing it, but I'll keep it on here anyway. I'm just going to jump through to a point where you can see it. Ah, there you go. So cool. Right? So you can basically just change the settings and it just models all of the landscape right there for you. That one's a particularly new feature. But and they move. So, I mean, I don't know how expert your eye is yet. Probably not super expert, but once you, and this is the modeling environment, it actually looks like that as you're modeling in it, which is cool. You know, you don't have to sit there and, you know, play around with gray, you know, purple, red surfaces and pretend until you're ready to render. It gets better when you render, but, you know, you can pretty much see what it looks like as you're modeling. Yeah, so I just wanted you to see a little bit of that. So I guess those are probably the two major differences. You've got physical based, and then you've got game based. Any other questions? And then you have stuff like SketchUp, which has like, you know, sketchy lines and yeah. Actually, a lot of those video game based rendering engines also do that too. They'll have like a sketch overlay that kind of sketches it all out for you and colored pencil and stuff like that. So, all right. So if there are no other questions, I'm going to close that video.